Fabrizio Romano had an interesting tweet around Jonathan David, and it got some speculation going, and the tweet went a little something like this. Lille are already prepared to sell some players this summer. Jonathan David's rise from January 2018 has been excellent, and top clubs have his name on the list. David's now Lille's top goal scorer with 17 goals this season, 3 in the UEFA Champions League, and he's just 22. Price tag is around 50 million euros. What I found interesting about the tweet is that Fabrizio Romano doesn't actually speculate on which top clubs there are. There's been a lot of top clubs that are interested in David over the last few months, but we don't really know which top clubs are going to be looking at him this summer. It opens the door. Some potential dark horses could come into the race and sign up David. So what we're going to do today is we're going to come up with a list of 10 clubs that I think Jonathan David could be a fit in and that should potentially target him. We're going to go on the assumption that a player is going to leave most of these clubs to open up a spot for Jonathan David. But without further ado, let's get into club number 1. The first club we're going to look at is Arsenal, and it's the usual suspect. We've heard David to Arsenal rumors for a while now, and it makes sense. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang went to Barcelona. The future of Lacazette and Nketiah are just completely up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen. So there really could be an opening at that striker position for Arsenal next season. Especially if they get Champions League football, that 50 million price tag is nothing to Premier League sides, let's be honest. So there could be a real opening for him. And this is how I see Arsenal potentially lining up with David next season. They line up in their 4-2-3-1. There's a lot of attacking talent in there. I mean, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, you got Xhaka and Partey behind him. And then right there up top, you have Jonathan David. There's a little pros and cons. Is I don't fully believe a 4-2-3-1 in this type of system is David's best fit. However, going to a Champions League caliber team in the Premier League is very appealing, and making the jump from Lille, where the service is almost non-existent, to playing with some really talented players like this makes this a very viable option. So this is the first one because it's the obvious one. Let's go look at club number 2. The next club we're going to take a look at is Manchester United. It's a bit out there, but it might be realistic. There's going to be a lot of movement with players on this team. There's no doubt about that. Most of them leaving the club. Maybe Cavani's going to move on. Potentially Ronaldo if he doesn't want to play the Europa Conference League or Europa League. So it opens a door. Ten Hag's going to come in. We've heard about 3 players will probably come in. So if those strikers he's going to need a striker. He's a fan of Jonathan David, so it might make sense. And if he were to play under Erik ten Hag, it'd more than likely be in the 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. Alanga on one side, Sancho on the other. This team isn't going to be exactly what it's going to look like next season because there will be some more additions, but this could potentially about be what it looks like. And having a player like Jonathan David come into this system, playing alongside Fernandes, Sancho, young Alanga, maybe another player, depending who they bring in, it could open the door for him to score some goals. Now, I don't think Manchester United is the perfect fit for several different reasons. I mean, the club's not in a great position. I don't think the players that are in the club right now, I think a lot more than just a couple changes need to be done. But I do think Ten Hag's a talented young manager, hoping to come here and steer the ship in the right direction. And if he fancies David and David can come in and play with these type of players, he could potentially have some success here. But I would have a lot of question marks around this type of move to see if he can potentially handle it. But let me know down in the comments, guys, if you think this move could be a fit for Jonathan David or if he should stay far away, which is kind of where I'm leaning. But that's all for this one. Let's take a look at club number 3. Club number 3 is another Premier League side, and I went with 3 Premier League sides simply because with that 50 million euro price tag, let's be honest, it's where the money is, so it makes sense to throw in 3 Premier League sides, and this one is going to be Tottenham. And there's a few different situations that could happen here. I mean, one, especially if Harry Kane moves on, that opens up a striker position. If Conte stays on, that could also maybe see him go back into that 3-5-2 system, which he really likes playing, having Son and David up front, or he could stick with the 3-4-3 that he knows, and it could be kind of a like-for-like type of situation with Kane leaving, David coming in. This is what this side would look like, and it's a decent Tottenham side. It's the 3-4-3 system. You got Son on one side, Kulusevski, as long as he's there next season, which it looks like he's going to be. Højbjerg behind him, David up front. There's a lot to like. I think knowing that he could switch potentially to the 3-5-2 and having the dual strikers, I think Son and Kane could have some fun together. If Kane was the one who was staying, or if it wasn't, then even David and Son. It'll be very interesting to see what's going to happen there. I think it's a little bit unlikely because just given everything that's happened with Harry Kane, more than likely he's going to stay, but 50 million euros is a lot of money. The Premier League sides will be looking at Jonathan David because they've seen what he can do. Conte might fancy him, so let me know, guys, what do you think about this side as well, and with that, we're going to move on to club number 4. Now, club number 4 is a very intriguing one. It's Borussia Dortmund, and it's one that I think a lot of people would be excited about. I mean, when you look at Borussia Dortmund and developing talent, bringing in young talented players and getting them to that next level, I don't know if there's a club that does it better than Dortmund. I have a lot of pros and cons about this, but let's first see how he could potentially line up. Now, this is on the assumption that Erling Haaland leaves because it would open up a striker position. Dortmund would more than likely have the money to be able to afford the 50 million euros from Jonathan David, and the striker position is lined up. I mean, I got Süle in there as well beside Hummels. Then you got Brandt, whether they bring in another winger or not. You got Malen on one side, Royce to the middle, and David up front. Like for like swap coming right in for Erling Haaland. Some of the things I like about this transfer is the fact that there's a good possibility he could hit the ground running at Borussia Dortmund, and this is a team that he will find players to work off of. Marco Reus is intelligent. When Gio's fit, he'll be in there. You see Brandt. There's a lot of talent that can get David the ball and hopefully find the back net. It's a fun attacking league. The one thing I don't know why this might not be a fit is because I see Daniel Malen as a potential similar profile player to Jonathan David, and if they bring in Adeyemi, I see that type of signing being similar as well. Both of these are not true out and out number 9s. I mean, Malen's been pushed to the wing. Adeyemi can potentially be pushed to the wing. You have too many of the similar type of profiles, and not playing in a two-striker system, because Marco Rose is like playing the 4-2-3-1 and not really much else. It could just make things a little bit awkward. Too many of the same pieces coming together, and now you're forcing maybe David to play out wide, and that's why I don't really see it as a potential fit. But if he does come in and they stick to him playing a striker and he hits the ground running, this could be a magical little move. It's one that I think like I said, a lot of North Americans would really like, because we've seen a lot of success in the Bundesliga. So, bit of an outside shot right now. I don't think he's on the radar for Borussia Dortmund, but there was a couple of links that they were linked to Haaland's replacement. Now, no clubs were mentioned for the David transfer, and no names were mentioned for Haaland's. So you never know. We'll have to wait and see. But there is another club in the Bundesliga, so let's head on to club number 5. Now, club number 5 really interests me, and honestly, to me, it makes somewhat of the most sense. Now, I think Leipzig, depending on how they can finish up their season, as long as they get Champions League, potentially win the Europa League, win the Pokal, they could have a good chunk of money. Now, this is on the assumption that a player leaves. Now, I'm hoping Nkunku stays, and I think from what it's looking like, he will. So maybe a player like Olmo will get sold, bring in a good chunk of change. Nkunku can drop down to that cam, and then this allows a spot for Jonathan David. It's still the Bundesliga, it's attacking football, and look at this Leipzig side. Lining up in the 3-4-1-2, like I said, Nkunku goes where he wants anyways, he can play as the cam. You got Silva and David up front as a dual striker, place of both of their strengths. You have Angelino down one side, Kevin Campbell behind. There's so much creativity. And under Tedesco, he's really transformed this team into potential title challengers for next season, depending on what happens with Dortmund and Bayern. So I think this could be a really good fit, and it's been one of my favorites. It kind of came to me, and I'm curious to get your guys' opinions on but I think the pros is that he's playing in that two-striker system. He's got so much talent to get him the ball, which is absolutely just not happening at Lille. I'm specifically looking at Angelino and even Nkunku on this one. This team would be a lot of fun. Jonathan David would slide right into it. I think that they can afford him depending on a sale, and that's why I mentioned Olmo. So I'm curious. I'm seeing if this might be one of the wild cards that could come in for the David race, because I think in the Bundesliga it could be the good move, but I think it needs to be the right club. And in my opinion, Leipzig's just a little bit ahead of Dortmund. So let me know what you guys think. Is Leipzig the favorite for the Bundesliga, or do you think Dortmund or maybe even Bayern should take a look? But that's club 5. Time to move on to club 6. Club number 6 is the other usual suspect with Arsenal, and it is Inter Milan. These links have kind of gone a little bit cold, but again, this is going to be under the assumption that Lautaro Martinez moves on, and it opens up that spot for Jonathan David, and they would look in a side a little bit similar to this in that 3-5-2 system. Maybe it's Dzeko or someone else, a bigger man up front alongside Jonathan David, where he'd slot in there as basically the Lautaro Martinez replacement. You got Çalhanoğlu in behind, Dumfries, Perisic to the right and left. It's a good-looking side. This is a very talented Inter side. They've been interested in David in the past. I'm curious to see if they're still going to be in the race. I think a lot of it will depend on if Martinez stays, if he goes. But there's no denying that he would more than likely fit in this side. The pros is that playing in that two-striker system is where I think you're going to get the best. You have the overlapping wing-backs. They're just going to get so much distribution. Having someone like Çalhanoğlu in beside David, it just gets me excited to see what David can do with just so much more pieces besides him. Because Lille, they're just not doing it. I mean, the man is just all alone. I don't think there's any doubt that Jonathan David would fit nicely in Serie A as well as Inter, but there might be another Serie A club that he could be a better fit for, and that's going to be in club number 7. Club number 7 is Roma, and I think this is a very interesting one because I think there's going to be a bit of a merry-go-round with strikers leaving and coming from different clubs. Now, if Roma lose Abraham back to the Prem, I think it's because he's going to join Arsenal, which would then leave a position for them of need up front. And maybe they take a look at Jonathan David and they would kind of slide into a side something like this, the 3-4-1-2 system. Zaniolo up front, Jonathan David partners him at the striker duo up front. You got Mkhitaryan as your cam, Pellegrini in behind him. Spinazzola will hopefully be back next season at the left wing back. There's a lot of attacking firepower to this side. And there's a lot to really like. I mean, Mourinho is Mourinho, but I think he'd be a very interesting manager to work under. I think David would relish the opportunity to link up with him. They'll be playing competitive football. More than likely, it's going to be in the Europa League, but maybe they come off of winning some European silverware this year in the Conference League. But they play that two-striker system, and they can kind of adapt. That rotating front three sees Zaniolo drop up basically as that dual striker, but then he can also go down as a dual cam. And I think David would come in there and kind of replicate the form of Tammy Abraham, who had a really decent season with Chelsea, kind of fell off with some other signings. They went over to Roma, completely rediscovered his form. I can see a lot happening like Jonathan David. Really strong start with Lille, kind of fell off towards the end, come to a league like this. And I just think Roma could be potentially more of a fit than Inter, and I think it's becoming a little bit more likely with the fact that Arsenal may look to bring in Tammy Abraham. So this is one I'm really excited about, this one in Leipzig. So let me know, guys, down in the comments what you guys think, if this one might be a realistic approach or maybe not so much. But now let's move on and take a look at club number 8. Club number 8 on my list is Atletico Madrid, and this one I'm very skeptical about doing for several different reasons. But if Griezmann potentially doesn't get signed because he's on loan and he's not done much of anything this season, if Luis Suarez maybe goes to the MLS, there's going to be some potential openings at the striker, knowing Atletico play in that 3-5-2/4-4-2 system. They like the two strikers. Jonathan David could slide right up there. Now, I don't think him and João Felix would go really well together, which is why I don't know if this is a potential, but it could look like something like this. In the 4-4-2, you have Correa to one side, Carrasco to the other. You got Koke and DePaul down beside him. João Felix and David up front. Like, on paper, it looks kind of tasty, but a couple of things I'm skeptical about is that Diego Simeone and his approach to football is just absolutely crazy. I think that it would take a real mental game to get Jonathan David to kind of buy in and do everything it takes and wait for those opportunities. It's kind of what he does at Lille. He doesn't get a lot of service. To play in an Atletico Madrid system, you got to sit, you got to wait, and you got to be ready. And that's something that Antoine Griezmann used to be very good at. Doesn't get very involved, but when he does, he makes it count. So I'd be very curious to see what David looks like. I think I'd maybe want to stay away. Just probably not the brand that best suits him. And then just being up front, whether it's Correa or maybe Matheus Cunha if he stays, and Felix, I don't know if any of those strikers really complement the best out of Jonathan David. However, like I said, it's Atletico Madrid. I think it would be an interesting test, and because of the two-striker system, he could maybe find a way to make it work. I think it would really test David mentally. So that's a fun one to put in there. I'm curious to see what you guys think as well, but we have another one in La Liga, and it's one that I think probably is a little bit better of a fit. So let's go move on to club number 9. Taking a look now at club number 9, it is Sevilla, and I think this would be a better fit in La Liga as opposed to Atletico Madrid for several different reasons, but potentially seeing Anthony Martial not sign, as it's been confirmed basically he's going back to Manchester United. I know they got En-Nesyri there as well as Rafa Mir, but there could be an opening for a striker position lining up in this 4-3-3 system. You got Corona to one side at Campos, you got Gomez behind him. There's a lot of attacking talent again. Rakitic very good at pulling the strings in there, and David could just kind of come in and be that striker, getting a lot of service and hopefully just settling in nicely, finding the back of the net. Again, I don't know about the lone striker being his best position, but this is a fun attacking team. It could be a team where they could link up pretty well and have an opportunity. We've seen Takatito Corona absolutely flying right now in the Liga, so it gives, some CONCACAF players a good opportunity to maybe want to come here and find a way to be successful. So if he was going to go to La Liga, I'd actually probably prefer him to go to a club like Sevilla as opposed to, well, really anyone else, especially Atletico Madrid. So hopefully this might be one of the cards, a bit of an outside shot, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Club number 10, our last and final club, is going to be a fun one. I want to make sure that there was a club in each of the top 5 leagues. And I know he's coming from Lille playing in Liga, but I also wanted to make this one a little bit fun, seeing if there's any way that Jonathan David and Kyle Larin can link up together. So this one, take it at what you will, but we are going to go with Marseille. I think Marseille has been linked with Kyle Larin in the past, coming there on a free, which would then mean they potentially will make some sales, maybe Boubacar Kamara leaving, and they'll go all out, spend some money on Jonathan David, bring him in a league he's comfortable with. He'll be playing Champions League football. Maybe Marseille will win the Conference League coming off of some European silverware. There could be some reasons. It's very, very unlikely, but this is a fun one to see what would happen in a way that Larin and David could line up together. And we put them in a 3-4-1-2 system. Larin and David leading the line together, as you would expect. Payet as your cam. You have Perez on one side. You got Under on the other. It could be a tasty looking team. This team could probably shoot for second place because that's basically all you can really look for in Liga. But regardless, guys, let me know what you guys think. If there's another club you think might be a little bit more likely where you see Laren and David link up together, or if there's a team maybe in Liga, probably PSG, you might see David go for it. But this could be a fun one, and I think that those two would do some damage in a squad like this next season. So those are the 10 clubs I came up with that I think should take a run at Jonathan David next season. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say down in the comments, and if you think that there's one that stood out to you, definitely let us know. For me personally, the two clubs that I think that are most appealing in the systems that I came up with today is RB Leipzig. They're probably number one for me, and after that is honestly Roma. I think really those two could give him a good opportunity to thrive, find some form going into the World Cup, and really just completely give his career that next step that he's definitely looking for. So let me know, guys, down in the comments, and if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub as well. We're getting close to 50,000 subscribers, and until next time, guys, take care and we'll see you soon. Cheers, friends.